then there were the moderately violent mosques. I mean, the terminology itself is absurd. The moderately violent mosques, they were the ones that contained moderately violent material. Now that in general was the material by those 1950s Islamic fundamentalists like Maududi or Qutb. You know, the guys, you may have seen them with the little Heinrich Himmler moustaches, the ones who said back in the 50s, or who launched the current stage of Islamic reform, which we are seeing around the world. They were the ones who said the reason for the irrelevance of the Islamic world and the violence that it was experiencing was because Islam was not supremacist enough. Now those people actually are pretty violent and supremacist. I would question whether you can call those moderately violent people. I would call those severely violent people. But the next category, severely violent mosques, were ones that contained materials that were written by ideologues, things that DVDs showing aeroplanes being thrown into buildings, pamphlets saying fund Hamas, other writings post 2001 calling on Muslims to commit violence. Now, the statistics were surprising, and I'll tell you those. 51% of those mosques had severely violent texts in them. That's what the study found, 51%. 30% had only moderately violent texts, so they were only moderately violent, and 19% had no violent texts at all. Now the 51, and that wasn't an accident, because the 51 violent mosques, severely violent mosques, 100% of those were led by imams who recommended that worshippers study texts that promoted violence. So it wasn't a question that there's something on the shelves, no one knows how it got there. The imam was saying, study texts like that, texts that promote violence. Now, of those severely violent mosques and the moderately violent mosques, it was the case that 98% and 97% respectively included materials promoting financial support for terror. Okay, promoting materials saying fund this terror organisation or that terror organisation. And what is particularly worrying, what I find worrying, is how Muslims were voting with their feet, which mosques they were going to. And what this study found was that 75% of all the collective worshippers, 75% of them were going to the severely violent mosques. Now, a further 1/5, approximately, I think slightly over, were going to the moderately violent mosques. And this study found that approximately 1 in 30 attenders, 1 in 30 worshippers, were attending the non-violent mosques. Now, what does that tell you about what Muslim people think Islamic doctrine ought to contain? Ask yourselves that. And this is a reply to Fred Littman, whose article I've enjoyed recently. You may have read it. He's given us a lot of very good publicity. Thank you, Mr. Litwin, if you're out there. I hope he will be sent a bouquet of flowers, because he hasn't done us any harm at all. Now he runs the Free Thinking Film Society, which may not be quite so free thinking as you imagine, because he was highly critical of this event, talking about us going about encouraging communities to stop mosque construction by using existing zoning laws in municipalities across Britain. On the surface, the efforts of these anti-Islamist organisations appear courageous, even noble, but they end up ironically supporting the Islamist view there is no Islam other than what Islamists insist it is. Now note the convoluted text. I mean, Islamist, he doesn't say what an Islamist is. He doesn't say why we should believe that distinction exists. He doesn't advance any evidence. He just comes up with something he thinks is nice sounding and uses it as a criticism. And it doesn't work, because it may be Islamists insisting upon violent Islam, but from that study would suggest that the majority of Muslim worshippers want to go to mosques where there are violent materials available. And if you don't believe me, if you don't believe this study, then perhaps you will believe the moderate Prime Minister Erdogan of moderate Islamic Turkey, who said of this kind of distinction, it is offensive and an insult to our religion. It is offensive and an insult to our religion. There is no moderate or immoderate Islam. Islam is Islam, and that's it. Now, I hope people will question this fashionable, convenient idea about Islam and Islamists. Always ask, what is it? What is your evidence that that distinction exists? Now, I can hear you cry, aren't I inciting a bunch of violent or riotous bigots to wreak havoc? Well, no, I'm not. What we're doing is empowering communities. We are enabling neighbourhoods to voice their concerns. We are enabling them to use the constituted consultation procedures, the statutory consultation procedures, which enable their voices to be heard. The law allows it and policy encourages it. It is encouraged that local people should take part in planning decisions. They should. Most of these neighbourhoods are poor, working class neighbourhoods full of working class battlers. They have to do a day's work, they come home, they're not trained in dealing with authority, not like a lot of the politically correct do-gooders. They need a little bit of advice, they're entitled to it. And people are saying that they should not be entitled to it. They can't afford it, therefore they shouldn't have it, no one else should give it to them. Those consultation procedures, those peaceful, orderly consultation procedures should exist, not to be used by these people because they are poor. That is wrong. That is unfair, just to enable somebody to burnish their politically correct credentials. Or you might ask, where will all the Muslims worship? If you get rid of all the mosques, surely you're not trying to get rid of all the mosques. Well, absolutely not. When I last counted, the official count was 1,500 mosques in Britain, 1,500. Now, given that so many of them operate unlawfully without planning permission, and that local authorities tend to collude with this, they don't want an argument, they don't want trouble, they don't enforce, I would estimate that the number is nearer double that, somewhere between 1,500 and 3,000. Now, if you visit England, you walk around London, you walk around a major city, give me your own opinion about it when you visit. Tell me how hard it is to stumble across a mosque. Tell me whether I've succeeded in closing down all mosques. I haven't. I have no power to. I don't try to. I don't want to. Now, what you have is that our campaign, we have fought a campaign against 17 mosques. What percentage is that? Will you tell me? And we have won 16. We've lost one and won 16. So I think it's pretty unlikely that we're turfing everyone out of the existing mosques. Now, the second study was a 2005 Freedom House study, and that was called Saudi Publications on Hate Ideology Invading American Mosques. Now, you remember the previous study said that 51% of mosques contained severely violent texts, 30% had only moderately violent texts. Well, that's 81%, and lo and behold, in 2005, 6 years previously, the number again, 80%, so 1% less. Okay, 80% of American mosques encouraged Muslims to, or contained materials encouraging Muslims to work for the establishment of the Islamic State, espoused hatred, violence and intolerance towards non-Muslims, Jew-hating. Is that acceptable to you? Are you prepared to sit there quietly and allow Jew-hating to go ahead? I am not prepared to do that. I come from a more violent continent than you do. I come from England, but it is on the doorstep of Europe, and I can tell you, I am not prepared to sit there and allow Jew bashing to go ahead. I will not do it. And it is wrong. And that was 80% of mosques containing materials encouraging that, and a preoccupation with infidel conspiracies, promotion of jihad ideology, and the suppression of women. 80%. Now, in case you think that this is all a bit dry, it's all a bit statistical and statistics don't matter, that might be your point of view. I'll refer to the third piece of evidence. That's a British documentary called Undercover Mosque. Now, that is a bit more fun, a bit less dry. That's one of those documentaries where you go into a mosque with a camera up your jumper and record what the imam is saying today, and you get it on tape. And what came out was really quite surprising. I haven't got time to go through it all here. There are a lot of quite blood-curdling quotes. I'll read you a very small selection. One imam talked about apostates. And what did he say? If the imam wants to crucify him, he should crucify him. The person is put up on the wood and is left there to bleed to death for 3 days. Okay, that is in Britain in the open day. That is being preached. And another, you have to bomb the Indian businesses, and as for the Jews, you kill them physically. I don't know how killing people non-physically works, but I think he's just making sure that the point gets home. I think he probably has a particular hatred of Jews. I think we can assume he doesn't like Jewish people, but he doesn't give us a reason. And then another one talked about the marriage to girls before adolescence, marriage to pre-pubescent girls. The Prophet Muhammad practically outlined the rules regarding marriage prior to puberty. With his practice, he clarified what is permissible, and that is why we shouldn't have any issues about an older man marrying a younger woman, which is looked down upon by this society today. But we know that Prophet Muhammad practiced it. It wasn't abuse or exploitation, it was marriage. Marriage prior to puberty, unquote. Now again, are you prepared to countenance that being encouraged in your society? What does that say about you, if you are? What have we come to? Now, the final quote I'll refer to is another man who was also very keen on children's rights, and he was a bit more terse and a bit more straightforward. By the age of 10, it becomes an obligation on us to force her to wear hijab, and if she doesn't wear hijab, we hit her. Okay, I think we can understand what his views are. Now, the police, you'll be pleased to hear, were so shocked by all of this, they were outraged, and they sprung into action. They did what you would expect any decent, dutiful British copper to do, and they arrested the documentary makers. Now, but they eventually, I think a year later, they said, well, it's okay, we're not going to charge them. But these guys saying these things, they carry on. I think they carry on to this day. Now, what I next want to talk about is what happens in British areas if a mosque goes ahead. Now, this is not based upon empirical evidence. It is based on what I'm told, my experience of dealing with neighbourhoods who have mosques in their areas, have proposals for mosques in their areas, have unlawful mosques in their areas, which then apply for planning permission. This is not me saying this happens in Canada. I don't know if this happens in Canada. This is our experience. And my advice to you is to watch and learn. Learn from other countries. Find out, then make up your own minds. I'm not saying follow us, but I am saying learn with an open and balanced mind. Now, the first thing, well, can anyone tell me the only good thing that we've experienced in areas where there is a mosque? Anyone? No, I didn't think so. Well, the only good thing is lots of free shoes, okay? But they're probably not worth it. Now, the bad thing, that what you will find is there are 4 stages of Islamisation that we've noticed. The first stage is the parking jihad. Now, the parking jihad is not the most serious form of jihad. I think we can agree. I'd rather be subject to the parking jihad than some of the other jihads that we have seen in history. But it's still pretty annoying. Blocked driveways, inaccessible neighbourhoods, people parking inside your driveway on your property. And that is annoying. You find yourself saying, are we going to the supermarket? No, let's put it off later. There's a service on. You'll find yourself retiming your commute so that you're not there when the Quran class is on. You'll find yourself perhaps not coming home on a Friday afternoon between 1 and 2. It just becomes very inconvenient. And you'll say to yourself, well, I don't understand why these people are such inconsiderate parkers, and why is there never a parking inspector? Why is there never a meter maid around here? They're always slapping a ticket on me when I park on a double yellow line for 5 minutes at home. Why don't they come around here and make a fortune? We never see them here. I wonder why that is. And then stage 2 happens, and in England what we have found is you begin to get an idea why. Because stage 2 is the dominance phase. Now stage 2, sorry, can you hear me okay?
No.
Like that? Okay. Alright, stage 2 is the dominance stage. Now stage 2, that is where you find yourself, or that is what I call the F off Mrs. This is our area now stage, because women bear the brunt of it. And what people report to me time and time again, a housewife will go out and say, would you mind not blocking my driveway, please? F off Mrs. Or would you mind moving your car so I can go out and go shopping? No, this is our area now. And it becomes really infuriating for people. And what people try to do is to forget about it. They'll say, I don't want any trouble. The local authority won't take any notice. The police won't take any notice. And they tell me, I have been in contact with people who've run campaigns on this parking issue. And to say they get the runaround would be to demean people who give other people the runaround. It is absurd. They go to the police, not our problem, go to the local authority. They go to the local authority, not our problem, go to the privatised parking inspectors, not our problem, go to the police, and they can't get anything done about it. One thing they can be sure of, and I've never known anyone accomplish anything on that issue, and people then try to get away from it. What they do is they retreat into their living rooms, close their door and try and tell themselves, this problem isn't going to get any worse, let's just ignore it. And then it comes on their front door with stage 3. And this is quite upsetting, and I have heard a number of reports of this happening. People coming to me asking for help, what can you do about this? And there isn't much I can do. And stage 3 is the shouldn't you sell up to us now stage. And it's usually single pensioners who get it. Older women will be subjected to this. We have found it in England. They go to the knock, they go to the door, 2 Muslim men, don't you think it's time you sold your house? Well, it's not for sale. Well, you're going to have to sell sometime. Well, I wouldn't sell for the 20s and 50s you've got in that carrier bag or that you've got in that briefcase. Well, no white person will buy it from you.